Hannah, welcome to the Calm Mom podcast. So grateful to have you with us today. Thanks for giving us a piece of you. So good to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to dive in.
Awesome. We're going to talk about a lot of things. I think it's going to be really helpful for you guys. A different angle. We always talk nervous system stuff when it comes to a lot of the symptoms you guys are experiencing. And that's obviously really important and foundational. And right, there are so many other parts of who we are and how we nourish ourselves, mind, body, and soul that impact the ways in which we feel and show up and all of these different things. And we're going to get into that today. But before we do, Hannah, will you just let everyone know a little bit about you and the things you love to teach about and how you got here?
Yes, of course. Hello, everyone. So my name's Hannah Aylward. I'm the CEO and founder of Han. And at Han, we really help women overcome chronic digestive issues by taking a root cause approach to addressing underlying like gut health and gut imbalances. It's the good work. I feel very, very passionately about this work. I love it so much. But one of the reasons is because the gut does influence so many things, so we can work on things like gut bacteria and bloating and digestive issues. But what we see in clients is confidence and anxiety lowers and, full transformation. So I always say that's why I like really do this work, to help women succeed in a much bigger level and love their bodies and feel comfortable in their bodies. But I really got here because I struggled with all of it myself. I think that's a lot of our story when it comes to kind of alternative health and why we got into all of it. But I had chronic digestive issues, chronic bloating. I looked like 6 months pregnant after eating an apple. Yes. I ate super healthy. I exercised, I was like an athlete. I played volleyball competitively. I was aware of eating healthy foods and exercising and all of that. And nothing really was working, So I lived on elimination diets for years. I didn't eat gluten or dairy for probably like a decade, not an exaggeration. I didn't touch a French fry. I mean, it started to then impact my mental health, right? Not that you have to eat French fries for good mental health, but French fries are fabulous. They're delicious. So, if you feel so restricted every day, that's going to take a big toll on your mental health. And that's what we see with our clients too. If there's a lot of food fear, food anxiety. And, I got to the point where I was packing all my own snacks. I was terrified to travel. Anything that interrupted my routine would throw off my digestion. And then that would impact my mental health. I could feel it immediately in my mood. It's like pretty wild. So as soon as that flare up would start, my mood would decrease and I would feel, I don't use the term depression lightly, but kind of like leaning towards that like depressive state. Yeah. And then, talk about the health anxiety that comes with all of it. It's nonstop when you're afraid of how everything you eat is going to make you feel. It's a really negative downward spiral. So, I just, I learned that there was a lot more to gut health than just the food that we ate. And while nutrition can be so powerful and happy to talk about that. When we look deeper at the gut microbiome and how we're properly digesting our food and the nervous system connection, like there's so much value to gain there. And we can really see a lot of these like IBS symptoms go away when we dig a little deeper.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be so good. Like my wheels are spinning so fast. I feel like you're like peeking into my life as you're sharing this because I'm the same way. Like I grew up, so I'm the oldest of 5 kids. All of us have had chronic eczema since like birth. Like I have memories of like my mom just throwing us all in the bathtub and we were like covered, in sores from head to toe. And she would put us in an oatmeal bath. And like, so my earliest memories are like elimination diets. Like I was the kid at the birthday party who like couldn't have ice cream or couldn't have cake or couldn't have and so I grew up with that. And I never really thought much of it. I was just like, oh yeah, I just have to stay away from all of this stuff. But then as I grew into adulthood and then certainly motherhood. And then, I'm running businesses and my stress levels and I'm like, this is not like, there's gotta be a root, right? There's a reason why. And I think you just hit the nail on the head for so many of us and how frustrating it can be because it's like, we try to educate ourselves and it's like, oh, I'm doing all the right things, right? I'm eating well. I'm like taking care of myself. I'm exercising. But like, I even did it yesterday. I had a bowl of lentil soup. My husband's like, oh my gosh, I looked 6 months pregnant after. I'm like, okay, I noted I can't eat that anymore. And I know there's probably another solution, right? Okay, so let's kind of start with this idea of like maybe some of the common symptoms that people are experiencing that would be a good indication that gut health is involved, because I think people would be surprised like how much that runs the gamut. And then let's talk about like how it impacts us, and then we'll give people some solutions.
Yeah. It's always hard for me to answer this question when it comes to symptoms because so many can be connected back to your gut health. But, we see a lot of people with chronic digestive issues. So bloating, looking 6 months pregnant with belly bloat, lots of food sensitivities and intolerances, skin conditions. So acne, chronic acne, eczema, psoriasis. There's a huge gut skin connection. I teach a whole masterclass on it. There's so much to dive into there. And then of course, constipation, diarrhea, any IBS like symptoms. And then we also have things like joint pain, and we also have things like hormonal imbalances. And, obviously there's many different hormones. So that's kind of an overarching term, but, our gut dictates like how much estrogen is put back into circulation. So we can see symptoms all over the body just stemming from our gut health and including energy. So if we're not absorbing the nutrients from our food efficiently, the body just simply doesn't have the raw materials that it needs to like fulfill all of its processes, and when you really just widen the lens, like the food that we eat fuels us. And if we can't break that down and absorb it well, then we're going to see symptoms all over the place. So that's when it starts to hit the thyroid, Hashimoto's, so there's so many different conditions that can kind of be linked back to the gut. So, we take a root cause approach to gut health, but I like to say that addressing your gut health is kind of taking a root cause approach to like so many other conditions that you have going on. But to be a bit more clear, I would say if you've got acne that won't go away despite any like topicals, dermatology, visits, eczema, psoriasis, rosacea, and then if you've been told you have IBS, like there's a deeper gut issue going on. Yeah. So a little bit of bloating here and there, after you have like a night of like pizza and beer with your friends, I'm not concerned about that. If you have bloating that's interfering with your everyday, it's starting to turn into food fear. You are uncomfortable. You have to unbutton your pants at the end of the day. You're running to the bathroom, or you're only going to the bathroom, once a week. Like that's when we've got something else going on.
Okay, that makes so much sense. How about things like sleep or irritability or anxiety, or just like, you mentioned the energy. That's a huge thing for our audience.
Yeah. So much. Yeah. So sometimes we'll hear clients, when I first started with this work years ago, one of my like first success stories was this woman, and she was like, I slept through the night for the first time in a decade without any medication with this work. So, there's so many reasons why, but especially when it comes to the female body, our body has to feel safe. So if there's issues with that, we're going to have more symptoms. And so essentially, if the gut is irritated, if we're not absorbing things efficiently, if we're not breaking things down well, if we've got gut infections and imbalances that are causing stress, so these things are stressors on the body, right? That's going to then interfere with other things like sleep. Blood sugar dysregulation can also play a big role when it comes to sleep. Liver function can play a big role too, which the liver it's not your gut, but it's kind of like a digestive accessory organ. So all of that's really playing a role. And then anxiety. Yeah. The question that we get is, what came first? Was it my anxiety? Did my anxiety cause my gut issues, or did my gut issues cause my anxiety? And it's both, it's very likely both. And I can kind of go into exactly how the chronic stress and anxiety can cause the gut issues, like what that looks like physiologically, but happy to do that. But yeah, from the gut standpoint, the research shows certain gut bacteria, when overgrown, actually increases levels of stress hormones in the body. So some of these bacteria will give off things like norepinephrine and epinephrine. So, then you add in the piece of fearing everything that you eat, feeling sick, it impacts anxiety through so many different like mechanisms.
Yeah. Yeah. I not love it, but I get the idea of like what came first, right? Because one drives the other, the feelings of unsafety and then the anxiety. And I coach a lot on that too. It's like anxiety about anxiety, right? It like becomes this cycle. I'd love to hear a little bit about how you teach around bringing that safety to our body so that we're in a place where we can actually start to heal, right? Because we can't heal when we're in fight or flight.
Yes. This work is so powerful.
It
I
is.
love I love the nervous system work so much. So when we're looking at stressors, I like to put them in different buckets. So
Okay.
we've got physical stressors, we've got mental and emotional stressors, and then we've got like chemical, environmental stressors. So, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, they're told just manage their stress, just manage your stress. And that can feel so difficult and kind of
Why
like,
didn't I think of that?
yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Oh, and it can also feel like it feels a little impossible,
Yeah.
so it's like, how do we make it more tangible? And I love a good action step. So, it's like when we're looking at there's physical stressors that can contribute to stress in the body that can then contribute to anxiety. So gut infections being one, gut imbalances being one, poor absorption, increased intestinal permeability. Then we have things like blood sugar dysregulation.
Yeah.
So, in order to help the body feel safe, like we've got to be eating enough, number
Yeah.
one, and we've got to be balancing our blood sugar. Those are like non-negotiables. I mean, that's nutrition 101, right? Because if you're not, so if you are living on this blood sugar roller coaster where we've got high highs and low lows, when that blood sugar drops, those blood glucose levels drops, the body's going to pump out cortisol, that stress hormone, to raise the blood sugar levels. So, I mean, we can't get out of this panicky, anxiety-ridden state without balancing our blood sugar. There's so much conversation too about this, this is why I talk out about the restrictive diets and the pulling everything away and the yo-yo dieting, because that just leads to more restriction. It leads to undernourishment. We've worked with hundreds of women at this point, and almost no one's eating enough, and they're not eating enough protein. Protein is so satiating and it's so calming. So to kind of like full circle and answer your question, we've got to regulate our blood sugar levels. We've got to address any gut imbalances that are present, and just really make sure you're eating enough. The fasting and the skipping meals and the working through it is usually not a good call for helping the body feel safe.
Yeah. Okay. When you talk about regulating blood sugar levels, is that more about what we're eating, when we're eating, like how we're eating? How do we do that, like practically?
Yeah, all of it. All of it. But if next time anyone listening to this is like making a meal, I want you to prioritize eating enough protein first and foremost. So we're looking at, usually 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal. We're also aiming for like about 100 grams a day. And these are general recommendations, right? So take it with a grain of salt. But we're looking at that. Most of the clients that we see, the women come in, they're eating like 50 grams of protein a day, right? So we're kind of like chronically under eating protein and just under eating in general.
Yeah.
But the protein is always, it's like tougher to get in. You've got to prep it, it's sometimes you don't want it. You
What
want
are
the
your
carbs.
hacks? What are your tricks? How do we get in more protein?
Yes, keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
I'm very big on simplicity. So, what this can look like in your day to day is like if you're going for breakfast, make a smoothie, get a good quality protein powder.
Okay.
You don't have to use that, but if you're low on time, I mean, this is like a game changer. So there's certain brands that I like, opt for organic if you can, but make sure you're getting in a good 20 to 30 grams. You can throw the protein powder into a smoothie. You can add in berries, great for good gut diversity and polyphenol support. You can add in some chia seeds for fiber. And then you want to add in good healthy fat too, because that's also very kind of like calming and satiating for the body. So when it comes to satiation, we're looking at protein and fat primarily. Fiber does help too. And then some carbs, so that's going to be that fruit component. So I want you to get protein, fiber, fat, and carbs. Fiber is technically a carbohydrate, but I like to kind of put it in its own bucket. So we make sure to emphasize it. And we want to balance our meals. So anytime the meal is, which I know it's just not like super fun to just eat balanced meals. It's not like keto or anything cool.
Well, it's fun when you feel well.
It's
right?
Exactly. I'm like, the irony is that we all just need a little bit of everything, but cutting out any of these big food groups will usually lead to issues. So a good source of, unprocessed carbohydrates or like minimally processed. I mean, technically rice would be processed or whatever, but we're looking to just like, not like cookies and cake, that kind of thing. Enough protein. So it can be protein powder. It can be Greek yogurt. It could be eggs. It could be, ground turkey, whatever works for you. And then some fiber. So that could be, the smoothie is easy because you can just toss it all in. So it could be chia seeds, flax seeds. The fruit will have some fiber. Raspberries are really high in fiber. So things like that. Those also serve as the carb. And then a good healthy fat. So like an almond butter, avocado, coconut oil, cashews, pumpkin seeds, whatever works there. And that's going to really help to stabilize blood sugar levels. The biggest key player here is protein. We need the other stuff too, but protein is going to be like the most important when it comes to regulating blood sugar.
Okay. That's so helpful. Is there a place then for an elimination diet?
Yeah. There is, just not to stay on it too long,
Okay.
So, an elimination diet alone will not heal your gut. And so I think that's where a lot of people have been kind of like steered wrong. Just with the uprising of functional medicine and like blogs and posts and everything like that. It's like, just take out gluten and dairy. That's all you have to do. I wish that works for me. So yes, there is a time and place for it. It's just, you're not meant to live on it. And so we see a lot of people living on it. And, if you've got something like gut dysbiosis, or you've got a fungal overgrowth, or if you've got maldigestion, the elimination diet isn't going to fix that. So that's where a more kind of like in-depth, thorough approach can come in. That's really the work that we do with our clients. And when we do that, people can then tolerate foods with less pain.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that's really helpful kind of on the nutrition side. Mm-hmm. And then what are kind of like either supplementation or even movement, exercise, like what are other things that can help really support our gut health?
Yeah, nutrition's a big piece of it. And then really optimizing digestion. So there's a lot of conversation about kind of like the gut microbiome, but we have to understand that before anything even makes it into the gut microbiome, we have to like break it down and digest it efficiently. So digestion is really a north to south process. It begins in the brain. I mean, the nervous system, it's a nervous system regulated process. So we've got to support the nervous system in getting into that parasympathetic state. When we're in that sympathetic dominant state, digestion's an afterthought. We will produce less stomach acid. We will produce less digestive juices to break down our food. So, it really takes a whole body, full mind body approach here. And that's kind of how over time people will end up with digestive issues after years and years of chronic stress, because it negatively impacts our gut function. But, in order to break down our food efficiently and optimize digestion, working on that nervous system, getting into that parasympathetic state, chewing your food really well. I know it sounds very simple, but a lot of us are just rushing, or
I have to like consciously, like sometimes I even set a reminder. I'm like, slow down. I'm like in the shower, rushing, washing my hair as fast as I can, like eating while I'm like trying to, and it's like chill.
No, I know. I mean, I'm not immune to this. My sister is always making jokes. She's like, Hannah, you are taking a meeting in the shower while eating breakfast. And I'm like, yes, be there in 5 minutes. it's really, I mean, the patterns, the sympathetic dominant pattern is very instilled in this body of mine. So I am not immune to this. Like I have to consciously put in the effort, So if anyone thinks like it's because I'm over here, I have it all figured out. I don't, it's the practices are to be practiced forever. So yeah, just like slowing down, chewing. We don't have teeth anywhere else in our GI tract. Once we swallow that food, we're relying on our digestive juices.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. This might be like going back a little bit, but can we talk a little bit about the gut microbiome? Like explain to people listening what that even means, what it is to have a healthy gut microbiome that's diverse, how we can help support that.
Yeah. So the gut microbiome, it's really just the ecosystem of microorganisms that you have within the gut, largely talking about the large intestine and the colon. So we've got the stomach, we've got the small intestine. Those aren't completely sterile. There still are microbes there, but most of the time we're talking about kind of that large intestine or colon. So we've got trillions of different bacteria. We've got archaea, parasites naturally occurring. We've got fungi naturally occurring. And these microorganisms, they do so many things for the body. So our gut bacteria can help synthesize vitamins. They can help convert thyroid hormone. They help us break down some of our food. Oh my gosh, like they do so much for us. So we definitely want to have enough of them, right? Enough of our good gut microbes. And it's kind of everything influences one another. It's a big ecosystem. So it's not about, we really don't know what the perfect gut microbiome looks like yet. The research is still, we're still discovering this and probably always will be. But what we do know is that more diversity in plant foods that we eat help to support more diversity of our good gut bacteria. And then that helps to make our gut microbiome more resilient and kind of like tolerable to more foods. So how, when we're looking at how to support a happy gut, we can look at increasing the diversity in the foods that we're eating, specifically plant foods, because we want those different fibers. So these gut bacteria eat up these fibers that we eat. And then, so we've got the fibers are kind of prebiotics. The probiotics, quote unquote, are these bacteria. And then once the bacteria eat up the fibers, they produce postbiotics. These are things, short chain fatty acids. And these are very anti-inflammatory. They help to support a good gut lining. They can help metabolic function, like full system, widespread. So we want to look at increasing diversity in our diet. So fruits and veggies, nuts and seeds, gluten-free grains, herbs and spices too. So when some people hear, oh my gosh, more diversity, how am I going to do that? Don't discount oregano and mint in your smoothie and ginger and turmeric and that kind of stuff. Because it really just takes a tablespoon or so of these different fibers to help to rebuild these good gut microbial communities.
Okay. Wow. I love hearing that because I don't know if anyone else can relate, but I went through this period, like maybe middle school, but I had like strep throat every, right? And then like you'd get your Z-Pack and like you take, right? And for like years, my parents had no idea. And I remember going to college and I was like, I was like, my gut, I'm sure was a mess, but I felt a mess in my body. And I know a lot of women listening, their kids are sick, coming down with all these different things. You take them to the doctors. It seems so much easier, right? They have a sinus infection. It's like, here, just give them this. Can you talk to us a little bit about even just like things to be aware of so we can make better informed decisions around, the gut health of our children if we're not really associating one with the other?
Yes. Yeah. So much to go into here. I also took many a Z-Pack in my day, chronic sinus infections as a little girl. And I mean, it was like, my parents just didn't know, they were like, well, that's what the doctor was saying. So just take the Z-Pack and Robitussin. I mean, oh my gosh, so much of this. So it kind of like makes sense that I ended up with all these gut issues, but I mean, antibiotics have their time. They have their time and place, right? So if something's getting really bad, an antibiotic, I mean, it can save your life. I'm not here to knock antibiotics.
Sure.
With that being said, do I think they're overprescribed? I do, and just be mindful of it. So I went in once and I had scraped my foot. It got infected. I don't know what happened, but they wanted to give me like 3 antibiotics for it. And I was just like, I'm gonna see how this goes. You give me a topical, I'm gonna try the topical. If the topical does the trick, that's all I'm gonna do. And if I feel after 2 days the topicals nothing's getting better, I will take the oral antibiotic, right? Yeah. And then the topical antibiotic did the trick, and I was fine. So I don't want to be like irresponsible with that story. Listen to your gut, follow your intuition, do what's best for your case, but just take it with a grain of salt. They're trying to give me 3 of them and I'm thinking, I don't think I need 3 of these, so just be mindful. Like, what's the lowest effective dose? Is this absolutely necessary? Is there an alternative? You can discuss these things with your doctor. And then, after you or your children have to take an antibiotic, how can we increase the diversity in the food that they're eating?
So, can you just tell us what it does to our gut so we understand that? Okay.
Yeah. So an antibiotic, it comes in and it kills off bacteria, kills off all bacteria. So it's going to kill off your good gut bacteria and the bad bacteria that are causing the infection. So that's why they can like straight up save your life. Once again, I'm not trying to knock that. However, they target these bacteria. So afterwards, you'll be at higher risk for fungal overgrowth or kind of candida overgrowth, because that's a fungi, it's a yeast. So the antibiotics aren't targeting that. So when you look at like the insert with an antibiotic, it'll say that like your risk for candidiasis goes up after. So be careful, be mindful, and ways to reduce that are working to replete that good gut bacteria afterwards, and keeping things like sugar low. So a little bit of sugar here and there, totally fine. I think the body knows what to do with that. But right after an antibiotic, be mindful of like your alcohol intake, be mindful of your sugar intake, keeping those things lower and really prioritizing these prebiotics and fibers to help regrow these good gut bacteria are very important. I have a whole podcast episode about how to repair your gut after antibiotics if people want like the play by play, but yeah, those are some of the biggest things to focus on, because we have to really rebuild those bacterial communities after the antibiotic has come in and wiped them all out. And the research is interesting. There is some research showing that after we take a lot of these antibiotics, like if we completely kill off some of these bacteria, they won't grow back, and then we're running into like antibiotic resistance and stuff, which would pose a huge issue for like global health. So just be mindful. And I think it's totally fine to just ask questions. Do we need this? Are there any other options? How long can I take this for a shorter time? Like what else is available to me other than just this antibiotic?
Yeah. And then if we have to take it, then we take it, but then we're smart and wise on the back end, right?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. So for the woman listening who is like having all these like light bulb moments going off because she's experiencing so many of these symptoms we've been talking about, you gave us such great tips on getting more protein in our diet and like having that morning smoothie, things like that. What are some other really basic like first steps that she can start to take to improve her gut health, and then maybe see, that trickle down effect of like other symptoms kind of dissipating or fading away?
Yeah. So the nutrition is great. The blood sugar regulation is great. The diversity, like I mentioned, getting in diversity. The other thing, kind of nutrition step that's really important, is to increase your intake of polyphenol rich foods. Okay. So polyphenols are going to be found in like really richly, deeply colored fruits and veggies. Not just fruits and veggies. You can get them in like green tea, you can get it in olive oil and things like that. But one of the practitioners on my team, one of my RDs always says, it's foods that stain. So like, that's what you can kind of think about, like a beet. It's going to like stain your cutting board, right? Raspberries, like if they get on your couch, like it's stained. So you're looking for these really richly, deeply colored fruits and veggies, increasing your intake of those. So olives, raspberries, blueberries, pomegranates, cranberries. Your gut bacteria love these polyphenols. They eat them up. They help to support kind of a balanced ecosystem, and they're easy to get in. Olive oil, like I mentioned, green tea. So increasing your intake of those can be really, really helpful for your overall gut health as well. And then I would say kind of the basics, like daily movement, get the body moving. When in doubt, back to the basics, like move in a way that feels good to you. I'm not a huge fan of really intense, like HIIT classes nonstop. I did that. It did not work.
Stress is stressed, right?
Yep. So my cortisol was out off the charts. Like I tested, it was super, super high. And eventually after your cortisol is high for a long time, it'll be low after a period of time. And when it's low, you're exhausted. I mean, it's like, you don't even have the stress hormones to like run off of anymore. And it felt very scary to me. I was like, whoa, this is not good. So, move in a gentle way. I like to say movement versus kind of like workouts. So it's like walking, yoga is great, dance in your kitchen. I don't really care. Like that's one of my personal faves. But move in a way that feels good to you, because that does impact our gut microbial diversity, and work on the stress, the nervous system work. And that also looks like sleeping enough. It also looks like boundaries. It also looks like saying no. So, we can kind of like go down many different avenues with these buckets.
Okay. That's so helpful. Oh my goodness. It's like whenever I, hear someone teach about stuff like this, or even myself when I talk about a lot of stuff that's kind of tied to all these different symptoms, where I'm like, oh man, I know there are people listening that are like, oh my gosh, I have all of this, or like I do have IBS, or all these, it's like, let this bring you hope, right? Instead of discouraging you, like let this bring you hope and encouragement that there are solutions for how you're feeling, where you can like, you don't have to go out and take a bunch of medication or do any of this stuff. Like you can actually, in your own kitchen, in your home, take small steps that are really going to make you feel better. So I'm just so grateful for the work that you're doing. Thanks for being here. Thanks for teaching us. Before you go, would you let everyone know where they can find more of you and continue to learn and connect with you and your team?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is never, ever give up hope. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
It's, there's so much that can be done. You probably just haven't had the right support yet, and that's kind of the simplest way to put it. So if this is resonating with you, like do not give hope, especially, or give up hope, especially if you didn't always feel like this. That means you can get out of it, right? There's not like a structural issue. There's not like a genetic born with thing, right? Like there's so much that can be done. So yeah, I'm very prominent on Instagram. I'm always there answering questions and stuff with my community. So you can find me there at Hannah Aylward HHC. We'll get you that link because my last name is a little bit of a doozy. So
we'll link it.
We'll get you that. And then the website's just hannahaylward.com. And then I'm just now remembering that, yes, I just launched a podcast. So we've got just a few episodes out now. It's called the Nutrient Dense Podcast. And so if you're interested in learning more, I mean, I love educating on this stuff. This is like my favorite thing to do. So there's some really good deep dives there for you to listen to and learn more about the work that we do.
Congrats. I didn't realize it was so new. That's so fun.
Yes. Thank you. 3 weeks ago, I think, and the reviews have been good. Everyone's liking it. So it's
That's
exciting.
a big deal. Yeah. Okay. We'll link that podcast also in the show notes for you guys, because you're already listening to podcasts. I know you love listening to podcasts. So if this resonates and you do want to learn more, you can just click on and head over there. But thanks so much for being with us. Really appreciate your time today. I learned so much. Just grateful for you and the work you're doing.
Yes. Thanks so much for having me. It was fun.